Hello, everyone, and welcome into ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. Tonight, we will talk about what Jerry Jones said this morning on the Dallas Cowboys draft strategy, because apparently they want to trade up. But can they? Do they have the draft ammunition to do so? Later on the show, we'll talk about the latest Mel Kiper draft, because it's an interesting pick and honestly a different one from the names that we have gotten used to repeating over and over again. So I think it's a good idea to look at that one, because it seems like a very plausible pick for the Cowboys at 24th. And towards the end of the show, it is already Wednesday. This week has flown by, ladies and gentlemen. So we have one cool thing, as we do every week here on ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. So get yours ready. What is your one cool thing of the week? It can be something personal, something professional, sports related, non-sports related, whatever you want it to be. We will have it towards the end of the show. Do me a favor, hit the like button, share the show. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, let your friends know about ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. Every like allows us to put this show in front of more and more Cowboys fans as we continue to grow the ADC Sports Dallas community. And by the way, shout out to the podcast audience, because you can catch these shows, both Skywalker Steele's morning show and my primetime show. You can catch them on Spotify and iTunes right after the streams end. So shout out to the podcast audience. If you listen to the show over there, we appreciate you. Let me shout out some of you guys here in the chat. What is up, Toxic Tom? Our leadership is so tone deaf, it's almost comical. Michael says, I thought that they were going to say the draft would be here in 2024. What is up, Chuck, Kenneth, Joey, Tommy, Peter over at Facebook, Steve Miller as well. Thank you guys for being here. Let's get this one started. Here we go. Let's get it done officially. 1, 2, 3. Hello everyone, and welcome into ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. I'm Mauricio Rodríguez, streaming with you live every Sunday through Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central here on Dallas On Demand Sports Talk Network, with a lot more content coming your way throughout the entire offseason. Primetime is always brought to you by our friends over at freemanmazda.net. We will talk more about them and the ride of the week in a few moments here on the show. As always, just a quick reminder, make sure you check out adcsports.com/Dallas for more Cowboys content and more Mavericks content. Today, I had an article out on the topic from last night, the clues that the betting markets have been throwing our way about the Cowboys' 24th overall pick. Last night, we discussed 2 of them, and in my article, I put out 3 of them, so there is an additional one in case you want to check that out over at adcsports.com/Dallas. Tonight, we will talk about what Jerry Jones had to say this morning on the Dallas Cowboys potentially trading up in the NFL draft, or at the very least, their intention to do so. It was pretty controversial. Maybe it has stirred up some heated conversations around Cowboys Twitter and Cowboys social media, and we will look into, can they actually do it? Can they actually be in the market for a trade up once we get into the NFL draft? We will also discuss the latest Mel Kiper mock draft, in which the Cowboys take a different player from the ones that we have been getting used to talking about, including Kenyon Green, wide receivers, Zion Johnson. And we'll close the show out with one cool thing, as we do every Wednesday night. So do me a favor, hit the like button, share the show. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, let your friends know about ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. Before we get into what Jerry Jones had to say about potentially trading up, didn't we call it? here on ADC Sports Dallas Primetime on Monday. When the reports started to come up on the Cowboys getting ready to announce a quote unquote major business announcement, didn't we talk about something crypto related? It makes sense. If you guys missed it on what is it today? Wednesday's press conference, the Dallas Cowboys announced that they were partnering up with Blockchain.com, which is one of the oldest, biggest cryptocurrency transaction companies in the market. And it really makes a lot of sense. Listen, as sports fans, we really don't care that much about it because we want to listen to Jerry Jones talk about football-related moves. But this is the Dallas Cowboys. You take the bad with the good. They're going to keep finding ways to innovate in the business world. And the trend in the world of sports business has been, crypto related. The UFC signed a multi-year deal with crypto.com. Red Bull Racing also has a deal with another crypto website that I cannot remember the name. And now it's the Dallas Cowboys and blockchain.com. They become the first NFL team to ever partner up with a cryptocurrency company. It's not that big of a surprise. We talked about this on Monday. We were just wildly speculating. We're not acting as if we had any sort of insight because honestly, we didn't. But it was fun to find out that it was actually somewhere along those lines. But Jerry Jones did have something interesting to offer after that major business announcement, and that's what we'll talk about tonight. Toxic Tom says, no, Mo, they put more effort into this business deal than actually trying to improve the team. Their priorities are clearly not winning, which what would be ideal, of course, if they didn't interfere. Joe says, what's up, Cowboys Nation? Watching from Italy. So we have, I don't know if Joe is just watching from Italy or if you're actually Italian, Joe, but thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Primetime going international. MJ says, I figured when it comes to the business deal. Nicholas says, we have too many needs to trade up in the first unless it's next year's first. And that's not a random comment. That's because we're actually going to talk about this, guys, because Jerry Jones, after the whole blockchain.com announcement was said and done, this is from David Moore from Dallas Morning News, Jerry Jones confessed that his intentions are to maybe trade up in the draft later this month, or at least he wants to. That's something he would like, especially, says David Moore from Dallas Morning News, in the first couple of days of the NFL draft. As you guys know, the Cowboys are sitting at 24th in the NFL draft. In the second, they had the 56th pick, and then in the third, they had the 88th pick. And Jerry Jones said, and I quote, I would trade up since we're down as low as we are in those first 2 or 3 rounds. We know this. We know that the Cowboys are fairly low because they did make it to the NFL playoffs this time. So it's not like they're sitting in the middle of the NFL draft. So let's just get this out of the way. Do you buy or not buy Jerry's message on trading up? Do you think this is just owner talk as we head into the NFL draft? Do you think he's bluffing, as Kenneth Fraser is saying in the Facebook chat? Or Chris Graham, who is saying lying season over at YouTube? Do you buy or not buy Jerry's message on trading up? And while you give me your answers, and before I give you mine, let me talk to you about our friends over at FreemanMazda.net, because the ride of the week, and it's crazy to me that it's already Wednesday, but the ride of the week is the CX-9 Touring that starts at $39,000 $50. It comes with all of the cool features like Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, third row seating, rain sensing wipers, all-wheel drive, and one of the best features of the CX-9 Touring, adaptive cruise control. Make sure you go into the website, go into freemanmazda.net, and do me a favor, because I have gotten obsessed with this and I have talked about it all week long. But the carbon edition of the CX-9, that's something you just need to check out over at freemanmazda.net. So thank you for to freemanmazda.net for sponsoring ADC Sports Dallas. Make sure you check out all of their new vehicles, family-owned business for over 65 years. That's freemanmazda.net. So do you buy or not buy? Jerry Jones comment. Chris says it's his smokescreen. Toxic Tom says not buying. He just says BS to stay relevant. Nicholas says not in the first. It may be a bluff to make other teams make moves and offers. Tommy says, I don't believe anything that man says. Chuck says, exactly. Try to keep the fan base. Michael says, I think they could move up, but only 3 or 4 spots max. Now, Michael might be onto something there, because I somewhat agree with it. If they move up, I think it's nothing major. I think it may be because they're getting wiped out and they just want to go up a couple of spots to secure a specific prospect. Michael says, Coach Jerry thinks he can win it all with the rookies. Tinkling and telling the collective fan base, it just rain rolling out of our backs. So my answer would be, I don't buy it. Joey disagrees. And I was looking for someone that was willing to disagree with us. Joey says, I buy it, to be honest. I think that's fair. But I don't. That's my take right off the bat. I don't buy it, and we will actually talk about why. I don't doubt that Jerry Jones is looking at the Cowboys' draft picks and thinking 24th is way too low, or 56th. Maybe Jerry Jones is thinking, if we don't go wide receiver in the first round, will Sky Moore be there at 56th? Will George Pickens be there at 56th? Or the other way around with some of the linebackers or defensive linemen or edge rushers. Maybe Jerry Jones is in fact, and along the entire front office, of course, thinking that they're way too low in the first few rounds of the NFL draft. But then again, my question would be, do they actually have the ammunition to trade up in the NFL draft? Because as you know, and here are the picks. This is from tankathon.com, which is my go-to website to check out each team's draft picks, to be honest. I think I clicked a sound effect by accident. I'm sorry about that. But the Cowboys have a pick in each of the... Let me just silence that real quick. The Cowboys have a pick in each of the first 3 rounds, and then they have a 4th rounder, and their strength comes in the 5th round, in which they have 4 different picks. 155, which is the pick they got in exchange for Amari Cooper, 167, 176, and 178. That's where their strength comes from. I don't think they have ammunition to trade up from 24th overall. And honestly, I don't know that there's a player the Cowboys would trade up for unless someone like, say, Derek Stingley starts falling, or Drake London, or a clear-cut top 15 prospect starts stumbling late in the NFL draft. Other than that, I don't see how the Cowboys actually make that move in the first round. So let's talk about the second. Let's talk about Friday, the 29th of April. And I couldn't help but go into the 2021 NFL draft pick history. And I don't see any team making a trade up in which they don't give something that the Cowboys do not have. And I will tell you some examples right now. The Falcons moved up 5 spots last year in the second round. They had to pay a 4th rounder. The fourth rounder was a high one, relatively 114. The New England Patriots moved up about 8 spots. They had to pay 2 fourth rounders. The Chicago Bears traded up multiple spots, but they traded away a third round pick and a sixth round pick. I don't know that the Cowboys would be willing to move on from that third rounder and that sixth rounder. The Miami Dolphins, traded up 8 spots, but then again, you're talking about earliest spots. So, for example, the Dolphins traded away the 50th pick for the 42nd one. The fact that the Cowboys are so far back at 56 makes it seem even more unlikely. The Las Vegas Raiders traded up less than 10 spots in exchange of a fourth rounder. The Carolina Panthers traded down for 2 fourth rounders from the Cleveland Browns, and let me say that again because that one I got it mixed up. The Cleveland Browns traded up about 7 spots in exchange of a third rounder with the Carolina Panthers, and then they gave up 2 fourth rounders. Carolina did to get that trade going, so they were getting a third round in return. I don't know that the Cowboys have the lack of ammunition in the fourth round, in my opinion, is what makes this a difficult conversation for Dallas. And then in the third round, it's even more complicated because here are the third round trades from 2021 that were cheaper than the fourth round. Carolina traded up 3 spots in exchange of a sixth rounder. The New York Giants traded up 5 spots in exchange of 2 fifth rounders. Other than that, the trade-ups that were higher than 3 spots went for something that was more expensive, a fourth rounder at the very least. Trading up in the second day of the draft is not as cheap as it seems sometimes in the simulators from PFF and all of that. I don't know. It seems to me that even though Dallas has multiple fifth rounders, in order to move around in the second day of the draft, you need some ammunition in the fourth. Or at the very least, you need a higher position in the third. And this is just looking at the 2021 NFL draft. But I think that if you look at previous years, you would find very similar results. So overall, I'm not buying this. I'm not buying that the Cowboys will move around a lot in the first few rounds of the NFL draft. And if they do, it's just about a 2-spot move, something like that. Michael says, if Davis fell to 20, I would get on the phone. I gotta confess something to you guys. I don't know that I'm as high as the consensus is on Jordan Davis. Sure, I like him, and sure, I would take him at 24th. I think that trading up for him would be quite expensive. I'm not sure that I would fall in love with that move. Gerard says they don't need to move around with this draft. Toxic says, Jerry Token, if the Cowboys made their own coin, what would we call the coin? Cap coin, Jerry Token. I'm all for cap coin. I think that's an accurate one. I would invest in some cap coin if it was put out by the Dallas Cowboys, to be honest, just because of my fan base. Hey, if the Green Bay Packers can buy worthless pieces of stock, then I can buy some Dallas Cowboys cryptocurrency. It's funny to me because what the Packers fans buy, that's literally nothing. Like, that's not even close to being stock. I say we need the fourth, says Kenneth Fraser over at YouTube. Tommy says Davis and Hamilton are probably the only defenders I would move up for. You know my stance on Cal Hamilton. I think that even if some team trades up for him, that would happen within the top 15. I don't think that's even close to being in place for the Cowboys. Toxic Tom says Mo, Mrs. Tom down his burner account is a Packers fan and heard that. Well, don't be offended if unless you buy that stock. Team Toxic Coin, says Jared. I would also invest in some Toxic Coin. No doubt about that. Michael says they will be paying players in Jerry token in a few years, only redeemable in the Cowboys Pro Shop. Well, the UFC is apparently already paying some of these pro fighters in Bitcoin. So, which is also funny to me. She got a share for Christmas. Is Toxic Tom? Well, then that's maybe on whoever gave it to her. All right, I'm sorry. I will start hating on the Packers issuing of worthless stock. But it's always funny to me. Signing bonus in Jerry tokens. So yeah, overall, I look at the Cowboys picks. I look at trade history from the 2021 NFL draft. And I don't know that the Cowboys have the ammunition to do so, especially in the first round. And the Cowboys do like their picks. We know that. We have learned that by now. The Cowboys do not want to get rid of picks. How many times have they traded up in recent memory, to be fair? Because it has not happened a lot of times. Am I wrong in saying that it has not happened in the first round since 2012? Has there been sometime after the Maurice Claiborne trade in which the Cowboys actually have traded up in the first round? Because I believe not, right? Am I missing a year? After 2012, what have we gotten? Travis Frederick in 2013, that was a trade down for the Cowboys. Then 2014, the Cowboys stayed put, right, to draft Travis Frederick, Zach Martin. I will tell you something. I was very young. You guys know this. I'm 22 years old right now. So when the 2014 NFL draft happened, I was only a 14-year-old fan. So I should be, pardoned for this. Because back then, I really liked Johnny Manziel. I really liked Johnny Football. And I wouldn't have hated if the Cowboys had drafted him because I was a 14-year-old fan with not a lot of valuable knowledge about the draft. So it's good that back then I didn't have a primetime show to talk Dallas Cowboys football because that wouldn't have turned out the correct way. Then 2015, the Cowboys didn't trade up for Byron Jones. 2016, the fourth overall pick after a very painful season. So yeah, 2017, Taco Charlton, they definitely did not trade up for Taco. So yeah, the Cowboys they have not really traded up in the first round a lot. 2012 was the last time that it happened, and it didn't work out for them. There is only a few guys I would trade up for, says Dallas Young. Charles Cross, Davis, Stingley. And what are the chances really of them getting out of the top 10? I think there will be an early run at offensive tackles in the top 10 or top 7 picks in the draft. I don't think that Charles Cross makes it out of the top 10. Jordan Davis, I think he will be closer to 15. It's Stingley as well. But trading up about 10 spots, that would be so costly for the Dallas Cowboys that I just don't see it happening. They don't have enough power yet for the first round, says Kenneth, with which I agree. What is up, Lord Nova 85? Thank you for being here. So there you go. Jerry Jones can say whatever he wants to say. Don't get your hopes up for a trade-up. Really, really don't get your hopes up for a trade-up. Most likely outcome, the Cowboys pick in with a 28 overall pick. Then they pick at 56th. Then maybe even at 88th. And then they work hard to get back into that fourth round and maybe target some of these deeper classes like edge rusher. And we've talked about this before. In the top 100, Dane Brugler has 19 edge rushers, 18 wide receivers, and 12 cornerbacks. So according to Dane Brugler from The Athletic, the deepest positions in the 2022 NFL draft, according to his top 100 edge rusher. I'm going to say it again, 19 edge rushers in his list and 18 wide receivers. That is the highest on his rankings. I think that the Cowboys maybe trade up in day 3. Maybe they move around a lot in day 3. Other than that, I don't see them moving a lot. Anyways, let's see some of your comments before we move on. In 2014, my son was older than you were, Mauricio, says Tommy915. There you go. I can see the first corner coming off at 17, says Jared. Which is, you know what's interesting? Ahmad Gardner is moving up in these mock drafts from Cincinnati. Mel Kiper had him as the second overall pick in his mock draft from today. Dane Brugler has him ranked as his his fifth best prospect. So starting to look like there are a lot of cornerbacks other than Derek Stingley that could be drafted super early. So let's be on the lookout for that. I wouldn't hate a cornerback with the 24th overall pick. Maybe I'm in the minority here, but if the prospect is one of these top 3 guys, I wouldn't hate a cornerback pick at all. That's just me, though. Moving on, and speaking about the Mel Kiper mock draft, he had one out today, and the pick for the Dallas Cowboys was something. It was an offensive tackle, Bernard Raymond from Central Michigan, and there were a lot of interesting prospects still on the board when the Cowboys took Raymond with the 24th overall pick. Now, this is not a new one necessarily, but it's one that we haven't discussed enough. Raymond can also play guard, which is a big deal when discussing this one. Because maybe the Cowboys are in a position in which you don't know what's going to happen with Tyron Smith in the near future. You want a left guard to play in 2022, but maybe if you draft someone like Zion Johnson, you're not super confident that he's going to be able to transition into the left tackle of the team later on. That might not be the case with Kenyon Green because maybe he shows you a little bit more of experience at left tackle. But with Raymond, the Cowboys could get a true wild card. You can get a player that can play left tackle and right tackle, a player that has not fully developed as a football player as he picked up the game late in his life. And I don't know if you guys have heard this story already, but Raymond's first exposure to American football, he was born in Vienna, in Austria. His first exposure to American football was the Blind Side movie. And we were able to find that out on an article from The Athletic by Dane Brugler, actually. And that was his first exposure to the game. He wanted to be an international student, and football and his love for it made him choose the United States. And then he started playing a lot, and now he looks like a first-round prospect. Now, let's look at some players that were still on the board when the Cowboys took Raymond on this mock draft. Let me try to find it really quick because I'm not finding it right now. ESPN. It was from ESPN, right? I closed the tab accidentally. So this is from Mel Kiper. And he had the Cowboys take. No, excuse me. This is not from Mel Kiper. Oh, I messed this up. This is from Lance Sirlein, excuse me, from NFL.com. Actually, Mel Kiper had an edge rusher going to the Dallas Cowboys with the 24th overall pick. So just a quick correction. That is not from Mel Kiper. That is from Lance Sirlein. That is why I didn't find the mock draft really quick here. Some players that were still on the board. Devin Lloyd, linebacker from Georgia. I would not like to pass on Devin Lloyd. Kenyon Green was off the board, but Zion Johnson was still on the board. The wide receivers were gone, however. Treylon Burks went to the Eagles at 18th. Chris Olave went to the Chiefs, a pick earlier in a mock trade as well. But how about Bernard Raymond? Would you like that pick at all? Now, Kobe Dean, I think he was also taken already. Let me confirm that. But Devin Lloyd was still on the board. Now, Kobe Dean was also available, excuse me. Cease says, I'll be LMAO if we trade up and get Malik Willis, says Cease Frog. Hey, I don't think that will happen, but that would be hilarious indeed. Mel Kiper is always wrong, LOL, says Nicholas. Cowboys better get a guard or Dak is going to retire early. Bernard Raymond, in my opinion, is a second-round talent, says Tommy. Dallas says, people are just getting bored. I guarantee there will be better players at 24th. And this does happen. So it's always difficult to find out whether these are people getting bored about the same picks that we have been saying for a long time in mock drafts, but also it's about analysts finding out nuggets as we close into the NFL draft. So, for example, for a long time, we have been seeing Aiden Hutchinson as a number 1 overall pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars. But as we get closer to it, a lot of analysts are changing it to Trayvon Walker from Georgia. And we don't know if that is going to be because of a legit rumor or a smokescreen. And that's part of the NFL draft experience and part of why we love it so much. Not a project pick, says Nicholas. Last project guy we got was Jalen, Tristan Hill, Taco Charlton, says Nicholas. All we need is a couple of quarterbacks to fall before the Cowboys, says Jared. Could very well happen. You have the Panthers that could be interested in taking a quarterback, maybe trade down a little bit, end up getting a quarterback. You have the Saints that could also trade up for a quarterback or stay put and take whoever falls to them after their deal with the Philadelphia Eagles. The Steelers at 20th. It's no secret that they have been doing their due diligence on the quarterback class already. Dallas is right in that draft position of number 24, says Michael, where all the talent left at that point is considered second-round talent anyway. I would also trade Devin Lloyd in place of Raymond, but I wouldn't entirely hate Raymond because if the Cowboys feel like he can play inside at first, I'm all for it, to be honest. Raymond, not a bad prospect. Dane Brugler's 36th best prospect. And if you consider that he could go earlier just because he's an offensive tackle, I don't hate that potential pick for the Cowboys at all, to be honest. But anyways, before we leave tonight, ladies and gentlemen, it is Wednesday. So as every Wednesday, we do have one cool thing here on Primetime. So if you are new to the show, how one cool thing works is you guys share something personal, professional, sports related, not sports related, whatever you want it to be. It's our feel good space of the week. What is your one cool thing of the week? Let me know in the chat. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, let me know what is your one cool thing of the week. Allow me to start. This time, I have something sports related for you. Last week, I also had something sports related because it was opening day season in Major League Baseball. And it's been cool to enjoy baseball, by the way, for an entire week. My one cool thing is that Sergio Perez, Mexican Formula One pilot, got himself on the podium on Sunday over Max Verstappen, just behind Charles Leclerc. And when I say just behind, I mean about 20 seconds behind, to be fair. But for the first time in a long time, in 4 years, Checo Perez is ahead of Max Verstappen, or any Red Bull pilot is ahead of the current reigning Formula One champion. So that's cool. That's my one cool thing of the week in the world of sports. I have recently become a Formula One racing fan. The season is young still, but I'm enjoying it a lot and I'm learning a lot about it. So that's my one cool thing of the week. Also, a one cool thing, you know, the NFL draft is getting closer and closer. Brian says, and I love this one from Brian, it is cool. And for 7 innings today, I thought that it was going to be my one cool thing. But Brian says, Clayton Kershaw looked like his old self today. 7 perfect innings. How did they pull him out though? What was Dave Roberts thinking? Brian, I love your pick, and it was going to be my pick. I just cannot get over the fact that they pulled him out. I'm not even going to lie to you, and this is part of my obsession maybe with sports, and I'm not saying it's healthy. But this morning, for a while there, I was literally in a bad mood because they pulled Kershaw out. I just don't get it. But yeah, Brian, I agree. That was definitely cool. Let's see some of your answers. LeBron got eliminated from the playoffs. Michael says, I had Cane's chicken tonight. That was cool. Kevin says, my one cool thing would be getting a shout out on your show, Mao. Watch every day. Go Cowboys. Hey, shout out to Kevin. And shout out to all of you guys that watch the show every night, every day. And maybe you're not super active in the chat because I've found that sometimes you're always maybe answering the same people because they're all, of course, I love that interaction, but there are a lot of people that maybe enjoy the show without putting out a comment. But we also appreciate you. And hey, shout out to Kevin over there on the YouTube chat. I'm about to eat some al pastor tacos, says Joey Bella, with a torta de bistec. Hey, I'm all for some al pastor tacos. Those are the best tacos, in my opinion. Toxic Tom says, Mo, you like the Yankees, Cowboys, and Clemson, so root for Lewis Hamilton. Well, at least I don't. At least I don't root for the Lakers in the NBA. But no, I root for Checo, Toxic, because he's our Mexican pilot, right? Tommy, I hope your week gets better and better. Sometimes, weeks are like that. Brooklyn Nets winning last night is correct. Let's see if I'm missing some other cool things. Just Blaze is bringing some fifths with like a future third is enough to move up. Gabriel says, Des Bryant was cool addressing things in the media. I have not seen that. I do want to catch up with that because I've seen some stuff floating around social media. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that will be it for me tonight. Thank you for joining the show. Thank you for tuning in to ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. I will see you tomorrow night for ADC Sports Dallas Primetime at 8 p.m. Central. I've been wanting to address the article from adcsports.com on the staff writers' votes on who is the most likely pick for Dallas with the 24th overall pick. So maybe we will do that tomorrow night. We have fortunately gotten a lot of news, so we have been adjusting throughout the entire week. Now, Angels and Orioles are my go-to baseball team, says Dallas. I don't miss Angels games just because of Mike Trout. My life revolves around not missing any Mike Trout at bats. But anyways, I will see you tomorrow night. Smash the like button. Do me a favor. Hit the like button. Every like allows us to put this show in front of more Cowboys fans as we continue to grow the ADC Sports Dallas community. FreemanMass.net presenting ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. Thank you very much. I will see you tomorrow night.